The champagne glass hit the floor before I did. Not literally, I stayed on my feet, but the sound of crystal shattering against marble was nothing compared to the crack of my daughter-in-law's palm across my face. 200 wedding guests went silent. The string quartet stopped mid-note. Even the ice sculptures seemed to stop melting. "You pathetic old woman," Jessica hissed, her white dress swishing as she stepped closer. "Give me the keys to your apartment, now." I touched my cheek. It burned. Not from pain, I'd felt worse, but from the humiliation of being struck in front of my son's entire social circle. Lawyers, bankers, people who mattered in this city, people who would remember this moment. "No," I said quietly. Jessica's face went from pale to crimson. "What did you just say to me?" I said no. I met her eyes. "That apartment is mine. The deed has my name on it. Not yours, not even David's." My son, my only child, stepped forward, 28 years old, Harvard law graduate, and he looked at me like I was garbage on his Italian leather shoes. "Mom, just give her the keys," David said. "You don't need that place anymore. We need it for storage." Storage. I tasted the word. "You want to turn my home into your storage unit." "It's not your home," Jessica snapped. "You live in that depressing studio on the west side. That 2-bedroom apartment downtown is wasted on you. You barely use it." She was right about one thing. I rarely stayed at the downtown apartment anymore, but it was mine. My parents had left it to me 30 years ago. It was worth $2 million now, maybe more. "The answer is no," I repeated. Jessica moved so fast I barely saw it coming. Her hand connected with my face again, harder this time. My head snapped to the side. The wedding guests gasped. Some turned away. Most just stared, hungry for drama. "Give me those keys." I straightened up and looked at my son. He stood there with his hands in his pockets, watching his bride assault his mother, and did nothing. Said nothing. His eyes were flat, uninterested. That's when I knew. This wasn't about the apartment. This was about control, about breaking me down until I gave them everything. The apartment today, my savings tomorrow, my dignity next week. They would strip me bare and throw me away like yesterday's trash. "David," I said softly, "are you really going to let her do this?" He shrugged. "Just give her what she wants, Mom. Why do you always have to make everything so difficult?" 28 years. I'd carried him for 9 months, raised him alone after his father died, paid for his education, supported his dreams, and this was my reward. A shrug, indifference, permission for his wife to humiliate me in public. I pulled out my phone. "What are you doing?" Jessica demanded. "Making a call." "To who? Your imaginary friends?" She laughed. "Everyone knows you're alone. You have nobody." I pressed a number. It rang once, twice. "Yes?" A man's voice, deep, familiar, exactly what I needed. "It's me," I said. "Come to the Riverside Plaza Hotel, Ballroom B, now." "On my way." I hung up. Jessica grabbed my wrist. "Who was that? What did you just do? You wanted me to leave?" I pulled free from her grip. "Fine, I'm leaving, but like I told you, I'm not leaving alone." "What's that supposed to mean?" I walked toward the ballroom doors. Behind me, confused whispers spread through the crowd. David called out something I didn't bother to hear. Jessica's heels clicked frantically on the marble as she chased after me. "Answer me! Who did you call? Who's coming here?" I stopped at the entrance and turned around. The entire wedding party was watching now. Bridesmaids clutching their bouquets, groomsmen loosening their ties. Jessica's parents standing near the gift table, looking concerned. "You said I wasn't welcome in your family," I said clearly, projecting my voice so everyone could hear. "You're absolutely right. I don't want to be part of your family. Not anymore. Not after what you've done." "What I've done?" Jessica's voice rose to a screech. "I'm the victim here. You're the one being selfish and unreasonable." "No, sweetheart, I'm the one who knows the truth." Her face went pale. "What truth? What are you talking about?" The ballroom doors opened. A man walked in. Mid-40s, salt and pepper hair, wearing a simple gray suit. Nothing flashy, nothing dramatic, just an ordinary-looking man with a briefcase. But when Jessica saw him, she made a sound I'd never heard before. A wounded animal noise, a gasp and a sob mixed together. She stumbled backward, nearly falling in her ridiculous designer heels. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." David grabbed her arm. "Jess, what's wrong? Who is that?" "Get him out," Jessica said, her voice breaking. "Get him out! Get him out! Get him out!" The man walked past me without a word. He stopped 5 feet from the bride and groom. "Hello, Jessica," he said calmly. "It's been a while." She was hyperventilating now. "You can't be here. You promised. You promised you'd never come back." "I promised nothing." He opened his briefcase and pulled out a folder. "But you did. Remember? 10 years ago. You made a lot of promises, signed a lot of documents." "What is he talking about?" David demanded. "Jessica, what's going on?" "Nothing." She tried to grab the folder, but the man held it out of reach. "It's nothing. He's lying." "I have proof," the man said. He handed the folder to David. "Everything's in there. Documents, photos, bank statements. Your wife has quite a history." I watched my son open the folder, watched his face change as he read. Confusion, disbelief, anger. "This says—" David looked up at Jessica. "This says you're already married." The room exploded. Wedding guests pushed forward, trying to see. Jessica's mother screamed. The groomsmen started shouting questions. The string quartet gave up and packed their instruments. "It's not what it looks like." Jessica grabbed David's arm. "I can explain. You're married to someone else." David shoved the papers at her. "You've been married for 12 years. This wedding is fake. We were separated. It didn't count. You signed our marriage license 2 weeks ago." David's voice cracked. "That's bigamy. That's illegal. I was going to handle it. I just needed time." "Time?" David laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Time for what? To steal my mother's apartment? To get access to my trust fund? To bleed us both dry?" Jessica turned to me. Her face was twisted with rage and desperation. "This is your fault. You did this. You ruined everything." "No, dear." I picked up my purse. "You did this to yourself. I just made sure everyone found out before you could finish destroying my son's life." "I love him." "You love his money. There's a difference." She lunged at me. The man stepped between us, catching Jessica by the shoulders and holding her back while she screamed and clawed at the air. "Security!" the hotel manager called out, appearing from nowhere with 2 large men in suits. "Please escort this woman out." "Don't touch me!" Jessica fought like a wild animal as the security guards took her arms. "David, tell them! Tell them I'm your wife!" David just stood there, staring at the papers in his hands. "Tell them!" Jessica shrieked as they dragged her toward the door. "David!" He didn't look up, didn't speak. The doors closed behind her, muffling her screams. I turned to my son. He looked lost. Young. Like the boy I used to know before law school hardened him, before Jessica poisoned his mind against me. "Mom," he said quietly. "How did you know?" "I didn't. Not for sure." I kept my voice level. "But 6 months ago, you started treating me differently, colder, more distant. Then Jessica started pushing for the apartment keys. That's when I got suspicious." "So you hired an investigator?" "I hired 3. The first 2 found nothing. The third one—" I nodded at the man with the briefcase. "He found everything." David looked at him. "Who are you?" "My name's Richard Temple, private investigator, 20 years in the business." He pulled out another folder. "Your wife, your fake wife, has done this before, 3 times, targets wealthy young men, marries them without divorcing her actual husband, gains access to their assets, then disappears before anyone figures it out. You would have been number 4. Jesus Christ. The photos are particularly interesting. Richard flipped through the documents. Beach house in the Caymans, numbered bank accounts. Your trust fund money was already being transferred out. Another few months, and you would have been broke. David sank into a chair. Around us, wedding guests were leaving in clusters, whispering to each other. Jessica's parents had disappeared. The caterers were packing up the untouched food. "I didn't know," David whispered. "I swear I didn't know." "About Jessica? I believe you." I sat down across from him. "But you knew what you were doing to me. You knew she was treating me like garbage and you let it happen. You encouraged it." He flinched. "I thought... She said you were trying to control us, that you wanted to run our lives. And you believed her instead of me, your own mother. I'm sorry." "No, you're not. Not yet." I stood up. "But you will be." "What does that mean?" I looked at Richard. He nodded and handed me a third folder. I placed it on the table in front of my son. "What's this?" David asked. "Open it." He did. His face went white. "These are my medical records," he said slowly, "from when I was born." "Keep reading." He flipped through pages. Stopped. Read something again. His hands started shaking. "This can't be right." "It is. This says..." He looked up at me. "This says I'm not Dad's biological son." "That's correct." "But you told me... You always said..." I lied. I felt nothing. No guilt. No regret. Just cold satisfaction. "Your father was sterile. Cancer treatment before we met. He couldn't have children, so we used a donor. We decided together. We agreed to never tell you." "Why are you telling me now?" "Because you need to understand something, David. It's about loyalty, love, sacrifice. Your father wasn't your biological parent, but he loved you more than anything in this world. He worked himself to death to provide for us. And when he died, I kept working, kept fighting, kept making sure you had everything you needed." "Mom..." "I'm not finished." My voice was sharp. "You threw all that away for a woman you barely knew. A woman who didn't love you, who was using you, who would have destroyed you if I hadn't intervened. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to fix this mess. You're going to annul this sham marriage. You're going to press charges for fraud and theft, and you're going to rebuild your life. What about you? What about me? Are we okay?" I looked at my son. Really looked at him. Saw the boy who used to bring me dandelions from the yard. The teenager who cried in my arms when his father died. The man who had just stood by while his wife hit me. "No," I said quietly. "We're not okay. We might never be okay again. But I'm still your mother. And I still love you. Even when you don't deserve it." David's face crumpled. He reached for my hand, but I pulled back. "Don't," I said. "Not now. Maybe not ever. You made your choice. You have to live with it." I turned and walked out of the ballroom. Richard followed me. Behind us, my son started crying. The sound echoed off the marble floors, bouncing around the empty room like a ghost. I didn't look back. As the story unfolds, take a moment to like, subscribe, and write in the comments. Would you forgive them or walk away? 3 days later, I sat in my studio apartment and watched the news coverage on my laptop. Local attorney David Bennett faces multiple charges following the revelation that his weekend wedding ceremony was fraudulent, the anchor said cheerfully. His alleged wife, Jessica Martinez, is wanted for questioning in connection with an ongoing fraud investigation spanning 3 states. They showed footage of David leaving his office, trying to hide his face from cameras. Reporters shouted questions. He ignored them all. My phone buzzed. Another message from him. The 14th today. "Mom, please call me back. I need to talk to you. I'm sorry, please." I deleted it without responding. Richard Temple had done his job perfectly. Not only had he exposed Jessica's fraud, he'd connected her to 2 other active investigations. Turned out she'd stolen nearly $4 million from previous victims. The FBI was involved now. Prosecutors were building a case, and David was caught in the middle of it all. His law firm had put him on leave. His friends were avoiding him. Social media was crucifying him. His face was everywhere, the wealthy lawyer who'd been duped by a career con artist. People loved that story. The mighty brought low. The arrogant attorney made a fool. I should have felt satisfaction, revenge completed, mission accomplished. Instead, I felt tired. My apartment was quiet. One room, small kitchen, bathroom barely big enough to turn around in. I'd moved here after selling the house David grew up in. Didn't need all that space anymore. Didn't need the memories. But the downtown apartment, that was different. That place mattered. Not because of its value or size, but because my parents had loved it. My mother had painted watercolors on the balcony. My father had spent Sunday mornings reading the paper in his favorite chair. They'd been happy there. Safe. I wasn't giving it to anyone, especially not to Jessica. Speaking of which, I opened my secure email and checked the message from Richard. He'd promised an update today about Jessica's arrest. Still at large, his message read. Skipped bail hearing. Bounty hunters have been notified. She can't hide forever. Also, you were right about the offshore accounts. We found another $800,000 she'd hidden. David's trust fund is recoverable. Prosecutors are working on it. Good. At least David would survive this financially. He'd be humiliated, damaged, but not destroyed. He could rebuild his career eventually. Find someone who actually loved him instead of his bank balance, if he learned anything from this disaster. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Heavy breathing. Then a voice, barely recognizable. You destroyed my life. Jessica. No, I said calmly. I saved my son's life. You destroyed your own. I loved him. You loved his money. We've been over this. You're a vindictive, bitter old woman who can't stand to see her son happy. I laughed. Actually laughed. Happy? You slapped me at your wedding. You demanded I hand over property that didn't belong to you. You committed fraud, bigamy, and theft. Where exactly was my son's happiness in any of that? Silence. That's what I thought, I continued. Now I'm going to hang up, and you're going to turn yourself in. Because if you don't, Richard has instructions to release some very interesting photos to the media. Photos involving you and a certain married senator. The FBI would love to have those. You're bluffing. Try me. More silence. I set the phone down and rubbed my temples. A headache was building behind my eyes. I hadn't slept properly in days. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw David's face at the wedding. The indifference, the coldness, my son, my baby boy, looking at me like I was nothing. How had it come to this? A knock on the door interrupted my thoughts. I looked through the peephole. David stood in the hallway, hands in his pockets, looking miserable. Go away, I called through the door. Mom, please, I need to talk to you. I have nothing to say to you. Then just listen, 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking. I counted to 10, then 20. Then I unlocked the door but left the chain on. What? He looked worse than he had at the wedding. Unshaven. Dark circles under his eyes. His expensive suit was wrinkled. Can I come in? No. Mom, you stood there and watched your wife assault me, David. You did nothing. You said nothing. You told me to just give her what she wanted. So no, you can't come in. His face crumpled. I know I messed up. I was wrong. I'm so sorry. Being sorry doesn't fix anything. What do I have to do? Tell me. I'll do anything. I studied him through the gap in the door. He looked sincere, desperate even. But I'd seen him lie before. I'd watched him transform into someone I didn't recognize. You want to make this right? I said slowly. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to go to therapy. Real therapy, not some life coach your friends recommend. You're going to figure out why you let Jessica manipulate you, why you turned against me, why you became someone who stands by while their mother gets hit. Okay, yes, I'll do that. I'm not finished. You're also going to testify against Jessica. Full cooperation with the prosecutors. No deals, no protection. You're going to tell them everything you know about her finances, her plans, her contacts. He hesitated. She'll hate me. She already hates you. The difference is now she can't hurt you anymore. Not if she's in prison. Mom, that's harsh. So is fraud. So is bigamy. So is stealing from your fiancé. I paused. So is hitting your fiancé's mother at your fake wedding. He flinched at every word. Anything else? He asked quietly. Yes, you're going to respect my boundaries. If I don't want to see you, you leave me alone. If I don't answer your calls, you stop calling. You don't show up at my apartment unannounced. You don't send flowers or gifts or messages through other people. You give me space until I'm ready to have you in my life again. If I ever am. You're my mother. And you're my son. But that doesn't mean I have to let you hurt me over and over. I felt tears building, but refused to let them fall. I loved your father. He was a good man. He would have been so disappointed in you. That did it. David's face went pale. Don't say that. It's true. He raised you to be better than this. We both did. And you threw it away for a woman you barely knew. I thought she loved me. No, you didn't. You wanted to believe she loved you. There's a difference. Deep down, you knew something was wrong. You knew she was pushing me away for a reason. You knew her demands were unreasonable. But you went along with it anyway, because it was easier than standing up to her. David leaned against the doorframe. You're right. I know I am. Can you ever forgive me? I don't know. Ask me in a year. Maybe 2. Right now I'm still too angry. He nodded slowly. Fair enough. We stood there in silence for a moment, mother and son, separated by a door chain and a mountain of hurt. I really am sorry, he said finally. I believe you, but sorry isn't enough. You need to do better. Be better. Prove that you've learned something from this disaster. I will. We'll see. He started to say something else, but I closed the door. Gently, but firmly. I heard him stand there for a moment, then his footsteps retreating down the hall. I leaned against the wall and let myself cry. Richard Temple called me the next morning. Jessica Martinez, or whatever her real name is, turned herself in last night, he said. FBI custody, no bail this time. Good. It gets better. Her actual husband? He's been running the whole operation. She's the face, he's the brains. They've been doing this for 15 years. They've scammed at least 8 men out of millions. The feds are building a massive case. I sat down at my tiny kitchen table. How much did they steal total? Conservative estimate? 12 million? Probably more. They had accounts in 7 countries, properties under false names, the works. $12 million, 8 victims, 15 years of lies. What about David? He's clean. Stupid, but clean. His trust fund was targeted, but they didn't get much before we intervened. Maybe 50,000. He'll get it back once the assets are recovered and liquidated. $50,000. To Jessica and her husband, that was probably pocket change. But to David, it must have felt like the world was ending. The prosecutors want to talk to you, Richard continued. They need your testimony about what happened at the wedding, about the assault. When? Today, if possible. They're moving fast before Jessica's lawyers can build a defense. I checked the clock. 9:30. I had nowhere to be. Nowhere I needed to be, anyway. Give me an hour. I'll pick you up. He hung up before I could argue. I got dressed slowly. Black pants, simple blouse, comfortable shoes. Nothing fancy. I wasn't trying to impress anyone. Richard arrived exactly 60 minutes later. He drove a boring sedan, dark blue, probably 10 years old. Nothing flashy, nothing that screamed private investigator. "Thank you for doing this," he said as we pulled into traffic. "Most people would want to stay as far away from this case as possible. I'm not most people." I noticed. He glanced at me. "Can I ask you something?" "Go ahead." "Why did you wait so long? If you suspected Jessica 6 months ago, why not expose her sooner?" I watched the city pass by outside the window. "Because I needed to be sure. And because I wanted her to feel safe, confident. I wanted her to think she'd won. That way, when everything fell apart, it would hurt more." "That's cold. She slapped me in front of 200 people. She tried to steal my property. She was in the process of destroying my son's life. Yes, I'm cold, and I don't apologize for it." Richard smiled slightly. "Remind me never to get on your bad side." "Good advice." The federal building was downtown, all concrete and glass and security checkpoints. We went through metal detectors, signed in, got visitor badges. A young prosecutor named Jennifer Kwan met us in the lobby. "Mrs. Bennett, thank you for coming." She shook my hand firmly. "I'm handling the fraud case against Jessica Martinez and her husband, Carlos Rivera. Your testimony will be crucial. Whatever you need." She led us to a conference room. Files covered the table. Photos, documents, bank statements. A whiteboard on the wall showed a timeline stretching back 2 decades. "This is going to take a while," Jennifer warned. "We need to document everything that happened, from the moment you first met Jessica to the events at the wedding. Every conversation, every interaction, every red flag." "I understand." We talked for 3 hours. I described meeting Jessica for the first time. She'd seemed nice then, charming even. How gradually her requests became demands. How she started isolating David from his friends, from me. How she pushed and pushed until that moment at the wedding when her mask finally slipped. "She hit you twice," Jennifer said, taking notes. "The first slap, then the second one harder. Did anyone try to stop her?" "No. David just stood there. The guests watched. Nobody intervened." "How did that make you feel?" "Humiliated, angry, betrayed." I paused. "But also clear-headed. That's when I knew for certain what she was. Not just a gold digger. Something worse. Something calculated and cruel." Jennifer nodded. "That clarity is important. It shows premeditation on her part. She wanted to break you down publicly, establish dominance, make you feel powerless so you'd give her what she wanted. It didn't work." "No, it didn't, because you were prepared." She pulled out a file. Richard's investigation was incredibly thorough. The evidence he gathered is what allowed us to move this quickly. Most fraud cases take months, even years to build. We had Jessica in custody within 72 hours. "Good. There's something else." Jennifer glanced at Richard. "We found evidence that Jessica was planning something more extreme. Emails between her and Carlos discussing ways to remove obstacles." "Remove obstacles? You mean me?" "We're not sure. The language is vague. Could be legal maneuvering. Could be threats of violence. We're investigating." "But you think she might have tried to hurt me?" "It's possible, which is why we're recommending you take precautions. Don't go anywhere alone. Vary your routine. Consider staying somewhere else until the trial." I thought about my tiny studio apartment, the chain lock on the door, how easily someone could force their way in. "I'll be careful. Richard has offered to provide security," Jennifer continued. "Pro bono. He feels responsible since he got you involved in this." I looked at Richard. He shrugged. "I don't like loose ends, and Jessica's husband Carlos is still out there. He skipped the country before we could arrest him. Interpol is looking, but these things take time. So I need a bodyguard. Think of me as a concerned friend who happens to be good at surveillance." Despite everything, I almost smiled. "Fine, but you're not sleeping on my couch. That thing is older than David. I'll set up in my car outside. I've slept in worse places." We finished the interview around 2. Jennifer walked us out, promising to keep me updated on the case. Carlos was the priority now. Finding him, extraditing him, making sure he couldn't warn other potential victims or hide more assets. Jessica will probably try to make a deal, Jennifer said as we waited for the elevator. Testify against Carlos in exchange for a lighter sentence. But even with cooperation, she's looking at 10 to 15 years minimum. Good. You really don't have any sympathy for her? I thought about that question. Really thought about it. No, I said finally. She made her choices. She hurt people deliberately, systematically, for profit. She was going to destroy my son's life and she enjoyed doing it. So no. I don't feel sorry for her, and I won't. Jennifer nodded. Fair enough. Not everyone is worth saving. A week passed, then 2. Richard kept his promise, parking outside my apartment every night. During the day, I went about my life as normally as possible. Grocery shopping, library visits, long walks along the river. But everything felt different now. I caught myself looking over my shoulder, jumping at unexpected sounds, wondering if every stranger was connected to Carlos Rivera. David called twice. I didn't answer. He sent one text. I'm in therapy, like you said. It's hard, but I'm trying. Love you, Mom. I didn't respond to that either. My sister Ellen finally tracked me down on a Wednesday afternoon. She showed up at my door with Chinese takeout and a determined expression. You can't ignore me, she announced, pushing past me into the apartment. Also, I brought spring rolls. Ellen was 5 years younger than me, married to a dentist, mother of 3. We'd never been particularly close, but she meant well. What do you want? I asked, following her to the kitchen. I want to make sure you're okay. There's a crazy story all over the news about David and some con artist. Is it true? Yes. Jesus Christ, she set out plates. I always thought that girl was sketchy. Too perfect, like a mannequin. You never said anything. Would you have listened? No. Exactly. She handed me chopsticks. So what happens now? I told her everything. The investigation, Jessica's arrest, Carlos still being at large, Richard sleeping in his car outside. Ellen listened without interrupting. When I finished, she sat back and whistled. That's insane. Like movie-level insane. Welcome to my life. How's David handling it? I don't know. I'm not talking to him. Why not? He's the victim here, too. He stood by while his wife hit me, Ellen. He chose her over me, repeatedly. Until I proved she was a criminal, he didn't care what she did to me. Ellen poked at her noodles. People make mistakes. This wasn't a mistake. This was a pattern of behavior. He didn't just fail me once. He failed me over and over for 6 months. He's your son. And I'm his mother. That relationship goes both ways. I don't owe him forgiveness just because we share DNA. That's harsh. So is being slapped at your son's wedding. We ate in silence for a while. The food was good. I hadn't realized how hungry I was. For what it's worth, Ellen said eventually, I think you did the right thing. Exposing Jessica, I mean. She would have destroyed David if you hadn't intervened. I know. But maybe go easy on him? He's going through hell right now. His career is damaged. His reputation is shot. He lost the woman he thought he loved. He needs his mother. He needed me 6 months ago. He chose not to have me. So now you're punishing him forever. No, I'm protecting myself. There's a difference. Ellen sighed. You're the most stubborn person I know. Thank you. That wasn't a compliment. I'm aware. She left around 5, taking the leftovers with her. I watched her drive away, feeling oddly lonely. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. I turned on the TV for background noise and tried to read. Couldn't focus. My mind kept drifting back to David, to the little boy he used to be, the teenager who thought he could save the world, the man who'd forgotten where he came from. My phone buzzed. Text from Richard. Movement outside your building. Probably nothing, but stay alert. I went to the window and looked down. The street was busy with evening commuters. Nothing seemed unusual, but Richard was good at his job. If he said something was off, I believed him. I locked the door, checked the windows, grabbed the pepper spray I'd bought last week and hadn't thought I'd actually need. Then I waited. Nothing happened. An hour passed. Then 2. My phone rang. Richard. "False alarm," he said. "Just a delivery driver who looked suspicious. He's gone now." "You're sure?" "Positive, but I'm coming up anyway. I want to check your locks." He arrived 5 minutes later with a bag of hardware store supplies. "Your door lock is garbage," he said, examining it. "Anyone with basic skills could pick this in 30 seconds. Can you fix it?" "I can upgrade it. Give me 20 minutes." He worked efficiently, replacing the lock and adding a deadbolt. When he finished, he handed me 2 keys. "Better. Not perfect, but better." "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. I'm also installing a camera above your door, wireless, links to an app on your phone. You'll be able to see anyone who approaches." "Is all this really necessary?" Richard looked at me seriously. "Carlos Rivera is a career criminal with millions of dollars in hidden assets. His wife is in FBI custody. His entire operation is collapsing. He's desperate. Desperate people do desperate things." "You think he'd come after me?" "I think it's possible." He installed the camera while I watched. It was small, discreet, easily missed if you weren't looking for it. "Test the app," Richard instructed, handing me my phone. I opened it. The camera showed a clear view of my hallway. Motion detection enabled. Recording to cloud storage. "This is very thorough." "That's my job." He packed up his tools. "I'm going back to my car. Call me if anything feels wrong, anything at all. I don't care if it's 3 a.m. Call me." "I will." After he left, I sat on my couch and stared at the new locks on my door. This was my life now. Security cameras, bodyguards, looking over my shoulder constantly, all because my son had fallen for the wrong woman. No, that wasn't fair. This wasn't David's fault. Not entirely. Jessica and Carlos had chosen this path. They'd built their lives on lies and theft and manipulation. David was just another target, another victim, but he'd still chosen her over me. That part was his fault. That part I couldn't forgive. Not yet. Maybe not ever. The trial started 3 months later. Jessica looked different in court. No designer clothes, no perfect makeup, just an orange jumpsuit and dead eyes. She'd aged 10 years since the wedding. I sat in the gallery with Richard. David was there too, several rows back. We didn't acknowledge each other. The prosecutor presented evidence methodically: bank records, forged documents, testimony from previous victims. Each revelation was worse than the last. Jessica had married her first victim when she was 19, took him for $200,000 and disappeared before his family figured it out. The second victim was a doctor. She'd stolen nearly $1 million from him, including his daughter's college fund. That detail hung in the courtroom like smoke. The man's sister testified, crying as she described how her brother had lost everything: his savings, his home, his will to live. He'd written a note blaming himself for being stupid enough to trust Jessica. I felt sick. The fourth and fifth victims testified in person. Both described the same pattern. Jessica would seem perfect at first. Loving, supportive, everything they'd ever wanted. Then slowly, she'd isolate them from friends and family, make them dependent on her emotionally, and once she had access to their money, she'd start moving it. Small amounts at first, then larger sums. By the time they realized what was happening, she'd be gone. "How much did she steal from you?" the prosecutor asked victim number 4. $1.3 million. His voice was flat. "My entire inheritance from my parents, everything they'd worked for, gone." "And you never suspected?" "She said she was investing it for us, for our future. She showed me fake statements. Everything looked legitimate. I trusted her." "Why?" He looked at Jessica. She stared back without emotion. Because I loved her, he said quietly. And I thought she loved me. During the lunch break, I stepped outside for air. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters and curious onlookers. David found me there. Mom. I turned around. He looked terrible, thinner, older. The cocky Harvard lawyer was gone, replaced by someone who'd seen too much. What do you want, David? I wanted to say I'm sorry. Again, I know I've said it before, but hearing all this... He gestured at the courthouse. I almost married her. She would have destroyed me like she destroyed those other men. I know. You saved my life. I saved your bank account. There's a difference. He flinched. That's not fair. Isn't it? Would you even be here if Jessica had stolen everything and left you broke? Or would you still be blaming me for trying to control your life? I don't know, he admitted. Probably the second thing, which makes me a terrible person. No, just a foolish one. We stood in silence. Around us, people filed back into the courthouse. I've been in therapy, David said. Like you told me to. Dr. Patterson. She's helping me understand why I let Jessica manipulate me. And I have issues with control, with trust, with needing to be needed. Jessica figured that out fast. She made me feel like I was rescuing her, protecting her, being the hero. But really, she was using that need against me. That's very insightful. Dr. Patterson said I probably developed these patterns after Dad died. I was young. You were grieving. I tried to be the man of the house, even though I was just a kid. I never learned healthy boundaries. I looked at my son, really looked at him, saw the truth in what he was saying. Your father's death affected both of us, I said quietly. I wasn't perfect either. Maybe I relied on you too much, made you grow up too fast. You did your best. So did you. We both failed sometimes. Can we... David hesitated. Can we try again? Not forget what happened, but move forward? I want my mother back. I thought about it, about the hurt, about the wedding, about watching him stand there while Jessica hit me. But I also thought about the little boy who used to make me breakfast in bed on Mother's Day, who told me I was the strongest person he knew. We can try, I said finally, but things are different now. They have to be. I understand. No more putting anyone above me, not a girlfriend, not a wife, not anyone. I'm your mother. That means something. It has to mean something, or we don't have a relationship. It does, it will, I promise. And if someone ever treats me badly again, you stand up for me, even if it's hard, even if it costs you something. You defend me. Period. I will, I swear. I studied his face. He meant it. I could see that. Whether he'd follow through was another question. Okay, I said. We'll try. David's face crumpled with relief. He moved like he wanted to hug me, then stopped himself. Can I? He asked. I nodded. He wrapped his arms around me carefully, like I might break, or like I might push him away. I didn't. I hugged him back. I'm so sorry, Mom, he whispered. For everything. I know. Me too. We pulled apart as the bailiff called everyone back inside. The afternoon session was harder. They showed photos of Jessica and Carlos together, living in luxury, spending money they'd stolen, laughing on beaches while their victims struggled to survive. Carlos had been extradited from Mexico 2 weeks earlier. He sat at the defense table next to Jessica, looking arrogant despite the evidence against him. Mr. Rivera, the prosecutor said during cross-examination, you've been running this operation for 15 years, correct? I don't know what you're talking about, Carlos replied smoothly. You don't know about the 8 men your wife targeted? The millions of dollars stolen? The offshore accounts in your name? Circumstantial evidence. Is it? We have emails between you and your wife discussing specific targets, planning when to move money, celebrating successful cons. Those could have been faked. The prosecutor smiled. We also have testimony from your brother. He's agreed to cooperate in exchange for immunity. He described in detail how you recruited him to help with the schemes, how he posed as a banker to verify fake accounts, how he helped create forged documents. Carlos's face went pale. No further questions, the prosecutor said. The defense attorneys tried to argue that Jessica and Carlos were victims themselves, products of difficult childhoods, people who'd made mistakes but didn't deserve decades in prison. Nobody bought it. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, their faces were grim. On the count of conspiracy to commit fraud, how do you find? Guilty. On the count of identity theft? Guilty. On the count of theft by deception? Guilty. 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 16 counts in total. Jessica started crying. Carlos stared straight ahead, stone-faced. The judge set sentencing for 2 weeks later. Outside the courthouse, reporters mobbed the prosecutors. Jennifer Kwan gave a brief statement. Justice has been served today. These defendants preyed on vulnerable people for over a decade. They showed no remorse and no mercy. The jury's verdict reflects the severity of their crimes. What kind of sentence are you recommending? A reporter called out. Maximum. 25 years for Mr. Rivera, 20 years for Ms. Martinez. More questions. More answers. I didn't wait to hear them. Richard drove me home. David followed in his own car. When we reached my building, he parked and got out. Can I come up? He asked. Just for a few minutes? I looked at Richard. He nodded slightly. Okay. The three of us went upstairs. My apartment felt too small for 3 people, but we managed. I'll make coffee, I said. I'll help, David offered. We worked in the tiny kitchen together. It felt strange, familiar, but different, like trying on old clothes that didn't quite fit anymore. Mom, David said as he got out mugs, there's something I need to tell you. What? I quit my job. I stopped mid-scoop. You what? I quit the law firm 2 weeks ago. They were going to fire me anyway. Better to leave on my own terms. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. Dr. Patterson thinks I should take some time. Figure out what I actually want instead of what I think I'm supposed to want. And what do you want? He was quiet for a moment. Honestly, I'm not sure. But I know I don't want to be the person I was. The person who valued money and status over people. Over you. I poured water into the coffee maker. That's a start. I was thinking. He hesitated. Maybe I could help people who've been scammed, like Jessica's victims, use my legal training for something good instead of just making rich people richer. That's a good idea. You think so? I do. You'd be good at it. You're smart. You understand how these cons work now, and you have something those other lawyers don't have. Personal experience. David smiled slightly. See, this is why I need you. You always know what to say. Not always. But I try. We carried the coffee into the living room. Richard was looking at his phone. Jennifer just sent me the sentencing recommendations, he said. Jessica got 20 years. Carlos got 25. With the evidence against them, the judge will probably accept it. Good, I said. There's more. 2 additional victims have come forward since the trial, both from before the known cases. The FBI is investigating. How many people did they hurt? We may never know the full count. Some victims are too embarrassed to report it. Others probably don't even realize they were conned. I sipped my coffee. It was bitter, but I drank it anyway. What about the money? David asked. The assets they seized. What happens to that? It gets distributed to the victims based on their losses. Most will get something back. Not everything, but something. What about me? You're on the list. You'll get your $50,000 back plus interest. David shook his head. I don't want it. Give it to the other victims. The ones who lost more. You sure? Richard asked. Positive. I still have my trust fund principal. I'm fine. Those other people need it more than I do. I felt a flash of pride. Maybe my son was learning after all. We talked for another hour, about the trial, about what came next, about slowly rebuilding trust. When Richard and David finally left, I stood at my window and watched them walk to their cars. David looked back once, waved. I waved back. Progress. Small, tentative, fragile progress, but progress nonetheless. The courtroom was packed for sentencing. Victims filled the gallery. Some had prepared statements. Others just wanted to see Jessica and Carlos get what they deserved. The judge was a woman in her 60s, stern-faced and no-nonsense. Judge Patricia Morrison. She'd presided over the trial with efficiency and zero tolerance for theatrics. Before I impose sentence, she said, I want to hear from the victims. This is your opportunity to address the defendants and explain how their crimes affected you. She approached the podium with shaking hands. My brother was a good person, she said, her voice cracking. He was kind. He trusted people. He believed in love. And these two, she pointed at Jessica and Carlos. They destroyed him. They took everything he had, and then they left him with nothing. No money, no hope, just shame and despair. He couldn't live with what they'd done to him. So he didn't. She broke down crying. The bailiff brought her tissues. I want them to know, she continued, that they didn't just steal money. And I hope they think about that every single day for the rest of their miserable lives. She walked back to her seat. The courtroom was silent. 4 more victims spoke. Each story was worse than the last. Destroyed marriages, lost homes, bankruptcy, depression, years of therapy trying to recover from the trauma. Then it was my turn. I walked to the podium. Jessica watched me with empty eyes. Carlos looked away. I'm not a victim, I said clearly. Not like these other people. Jessica didn't steal from me directly, but she tried. She targeted my son. She manipulated him. She isolated him from his family. And when I stood in her way, she assaulted me, in public, in front of 200 people. I paused, making sure everyone heard every word. What strikes me most about Jessica Martinez isn't her greed. It's her cruelty. She enjoyed hurting people. She got pleasure from making them feel small, from breaking them down. That slap at the wedding wasn't about getting my apartment keys. It was about power, about showing everyone that she could humiliate me and get away with it. I looked directly at Jessica, but she was wrong. She didn't get away with it. She's sitting here in handcuffs, facing decades in prison, and I'm free. My son is free. We're rebuilding our relationship. We're moving forward. Meanwhile, she has nothing. No money, no freedom, no future, just consequences. I turned to the judge. Your Honor, these defendants are predators. They hunt vulnerable people, exploit their trust, and destroy their lives without remorse. They've been doing it for 15 years. They'll keep doing it if given the chance. I urge you to impose the maximum sentence. Keep them away from innocent people as long as possible. I sat down. David reached over and squeezed my hand. The judge reviewed her notes. The courtroom held its breath. Mr. Rivera, Ms. Martinez, please stand, Judge Morrison said. They stood. Jessica was crying again. Carlos remained blank-faced. I've presided over many fraud cases in my career, the judge began. I've seen people who made mistakes, who acted out of desperation or ignorance, who showed genuine remorse for their actions. You two are not those people. She pulled out a thick folder. The evidence shows a pattern of deliberate, calculated, systematic predation spanning 15 years. You identified vulnerable targets. You studied their weaknesses. You manipulated their emotions. You stole their assets. And you did it without mercy or conscience. Jessica sobbed louder. The psychological damage you've inflicted is immeasurable. One man took his own life. Others have suffered depression, anxiety, PTSD. Marriages have ended. Children have gone without education funds. Retirements have been destroyed. Also, you two could live in luxury. The judge's voice hardened. You showed no remorse during trial. You blamed your victims for being gullible. You claimed your actions were victimless. Even now, you refuse to take responsibility. She looked at Carlos. Mr. Rivera, you are the mastermind behind these crimes. You recruited your wife into this scheme. You planned the cons. You managed the stolen assets. You enjoyed the fruits of your crimes while your victims suffered. I sentence you to 25 years in federal prison, followed by 10 years of supervised release. You will also pay restitution in the amount of $12 million. Carlos's face finally showed emotion. Fear. The judge turned to Jessica. Ms. Martinez, you were the face of these operations. You targeted vulnerable men. You pretended to love them. You gained their trust, and then you destroyed them. Your actions at Mr. Bennett's wedding show your true character, cruel, entitled, and violent. I sentence you to 20 years in federal prison, followed by 10 years of supervised release. You will also pay restitution jointly with your husband. Jessica collapsed in her chair, wailing. Furthermore, Judge Morrison continued, I'm recommending you serve your time in separate facilities. You two are toxic together. Perhaps apart, you might develop some capacity for remorse. The gavel came down. This court is adjourned. Marshals moved forward to escort Jessica and Carlos away. Jessica turned back once, looking at David. Her face was a mess of tears and mascara. I'm sorry, she mouthed. David looked away. They disappeared through a side door. Gone. Finished. Outside the courthouse, reporters surrounded us. Jennifer Kwan handled most of the questions. I stood to the side with David and Richard, watching. How do you feel about the sentence? A reporter called to me. I considered the question. Justice has been served, I said simply. That's all that matters. Mr. Bennett, do you have any comment? David stepped forward. I want to thank my mother. She saved my life. I didn't see it at the time, but I do now. She's the strongest person I know. His voice caught. I also want to apologize to all of Jessica's victims. I was almost one of you. I'm sorry for what you've gone through. I'm sorry it took so long to bring her to justice. What will you do now? Move forward. Rebuild. Try to be the man my mother raised me to be. We left before they could ask more questions. Richard drove us to a quiet restaurant. We sat in a booth in the back and ordered food none of us were hungry for. It's really over, David said, staring at his water glass. Yes, I replied. I keep waiting to feel relieved, but I just feel empty. That's normal. You spent months in crisis mode. Now that it's done, your body doesn't know what to do. How do you know that? Because I feel the same way. We sat in silence for a while. The food arrived. We picked at it. Mom, David said eventually, can I ask you something? Go ahead. Why did you wait until the wedding? You had evidence against Jessica before that. You could have exposed her quietly, privately. Instead, you waited until the most public, humiliating moment possible. Why? I set down my fork. Because she humiliated me first. Because she was cruel. Because she needed to understand that actions have consequences. So it was revenge. Yes, it was revenge. I met his eyes, and I don't regret it. Not for a second. But you could have just told me, shown me the evidence, let me break up with her. Would you have believed me? Be honest. David was quiet. Probably not. Exactly. You were in love. Or what you thought was love. You would have accused me of lying, of trying to control you. Jessica would have spun some story and you would have believed her instead of me. The only way to make you see the truth was to force it out in the open. Publicly. Undeniably. That's manipulative. Yes, it is. I learned from the best. I paused. Sometimes protecting someone you love means doing things they won't understand. Things that hurt in the moment but save them in the long run. Your father taught me that. Dad? When you were 16, you wanted to drop out of school, remember? You said school was pointless. You could make more money working. Your father told you no. You were furious. You didn't speak to him for a month. I remember. He hated that. But he held firm because he knew you needed that education. He knew you were making a mistake. And he loved you enough to let you hate him temporarily rather than let you ruin your future. David's eyes were wet. I forgot about that. I didn't. I thought about it every day after the wedding. How much it hurt to have you angry at me, but how much worse it would hurt to watch Jessica destroy you and do nothing. I'm sorry I made you choose. You didn't. Jessica did. You just went along with it. Still, Richard cleared his throat. For what it's worth, you both did the right thing. Jessica and Carlos are off the streets. Future victims are protected. And your relationship survived. Damaged, but survived. That's more than most families manage. He was right. We'd been through hell and come out the other side, changed, scarred, but still standing. To survival, David said, raising his water glass. To survival, I echoed, clinking my glass against his. 6 months passed. Jessica and Carlos were both in federal prison serving their sentences. The appeals process had started, but nobody expected it to succeed. The evidence was too strong. David found a job with a non-profit legal aid organization. He helped fraud victims navigate the legal system, recover assets, rebuild their lives. The pay was terrible compared to his old firm, but he seemed happier. I kept my studio apartment, kept my routines, but I also started visiting the downtown apartment again. The one my parents left me, the one Jessica had tried to steal. It needed work, fresh paint, new furniture, repairs. I hired contractors and spent my afternoons there, watching the transformation. You thinking about moving back? Ellen asked one day, helping me pick out curtains. Maybe. I haven't decided. It's a beautiful place. Seems silly to leave it empty. It has a lot of memories. Good ones? Mostly. Mom and Dad were happy here, before they got sick. Ellen squeezed my shoulder. They'd be proud of you. How you handled everything. I don't know about that. I do. You protected David. You stopped criminals. You stood up for yourself. That takes courage. Or stubbornness. Same thing. We hung the curtains, light blue, the color my mother loved, and stepped back to admire them. It's starting to look like home, Ellen said. She was right. The apartment was coming back to life. David called that evening. Hey, Mom, you busy? Just leaving the apartment downtown. What's up? I wanted to tell you something. I'm seeing someone. My stomach dropped. Oh? Her name is Rachel. She's a social worker. We met at the nonprofit. She's really different from Jessica. Different how? Real. Honest. She knows about my past, about what happened with Jessica, and she's okay with it. She says everyone deserves a second chance. That's very understanding. Mom, I can hear the worry in your voice. Can you blame me? No, but I want you to meet her. Actually, we'd like to take you to dinner, this weekend if you're free. I hesitated. Please, David added. Your opinion matters. If you don't like her, I need to know. Okay, this weekend. Thank you. Saturday arrived. David picked me up at 6. Rachel sat in the passenger seat. She turned around as I got in the back. Mrs. Bennett, it's so nice to meet you. She smiled warmly. David talks about you all the time. She was pretty, but not beautiful. Mid-30s, curly brown hair, glasses, genuine eyes. Nothing like Jessica's calculated perfection. Call me Sarah, I said. Mrs. Bennett makes me feel old. Sarah it is. We went to a small Italian restaurant. Nothing fancy, comfortable. Over pasta, Rachel asked me questions about my life, my work, my parents. She listened carefully to the answers, asking follow-ups that showed she cared. "David told me what happened with Jessica," she said eventually. "That must have been terrifying. It was challenging. I think what you did was incredibly brave. Not many parents would have had the courage to intervene like that. I did what I had to do. Still, it couldn't have been easy." She glanced at David. "He's lucky to have you." David reached across the table and took my hand. "I know." We talked for 2 hours. Rachel shared stories from her work, helping domestic violence survivors, homeless families, people in crisis. She was smart, compassionate, nothing like Jessica. "I like her," I told David later as he drove me home. "Really?" "Really. She seems genuine, and she's good for you. You smile more when you're with her." "I haven't been able to smile much lately." "I know, but you're healing. We both are." He pulled up outside my building. "Mom, I want you to know something. I'll never take you for granted again, never. What happened with Jessica taught me what really matters. Family, loyalty, love, not money or status or impressing people." "Good. And if Rachel ever treats you badly, which she won't, but if she does, I'll choose you. Every time, without hesitation. I believe you. I love you, Mom. I love you too." I got out of the car and watched him drive away. Then I went upstairs, made tea, and sat by my window. The city lights spread out below me. Millions of people living their lives. Some happy, some struggling. All of us just trying to survive. I thought about Jessica, locked in a prison cell. About Carlos, in a different facility hundreds of miles away. About the victims they'd destroyed. Justice had been served, but justice didn't undo the damage. Didn't give back lost years or stolen money or broken trust. It was something, though. Better than nothing. My phone buzzed. Text from Richard. "Wanted to let you know 2 more victims came forward today. Older cases, FBI is investigating. Your actions saved a lot of people." I stared at that message for a long time. Maybe I had been vindictive. Maybe my methods were harsh. Maybe I'd enjoyed watching Jessica's world crumble at that wedding. But I'd also stopped her, prevented future crimes, protected my son. That had to count for something. I finished my tea and went to bed. For the first time in months, I slept through the night without nightmares. A year after the sentencing, I got a letter. From Jessica. I almost threw it away unopened. But curiosity won. The handwriting was neat, precise. Nothing like the chaotic woman who'd been dragged from the courtroom in tears. "Dear Sarah, I know you don't want to hear from me. I know I have no right to ask anything of you. But I'm writing anyway because there are things I need to say. First, I'm sorry. Not for getting caught, though I am sorry about that, but for what I did to David, for what I tried to do to you. I was cruel, calculated. Everything you said at my sentencing was true. Prison gives you a lot of time to think, to really look at yourself without the distractions of the outside world. I've been in therapy, serious therapy, and I've started to understand why I am the way I am. I won't bore you with my tragic childhood or make excuses. My past doesn't justify my actions, but it does explain them. I grew up poor, really poor. I learned early that people with money were happy and people without it suffered. So I decided to get money, any way I could. Carlos taught me how. He was already running cons when we met. He promised me a better life if I helped him. I was 18 and stupid. I said yes. At first, it felt like a game. We'd target some rich guy, take his money, disappear. They could afford to lose it, I told myself. They'd recover. The doctor's son. And I realized it wasn't a game. Real people were getting hurt, destroyed. I should have stopped then. But I didn't. I kept going, kept hurting people. Because by that point, I didn't know how to do anything else. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just wanted you to know that you were right to stop me. If you hadn't, I would have destroyed David, taken everything from him, maybe even driven him to the same fate as that doctor's son. You saved him. You saved me too, in a way. Prison is hell, but it's better than continuing down the path I was on. Thank you. And I'm sorry. Jessica. I read the letter 3 times. Then I folded it carefully and put it in a drawer. Did I believe her? Was she genuinely remorseful or just playing another game? I didn't know. Maybe it didn't matter. She was locked up. David was safe. That was enough. I never wrote back. 3 months later, Richard called with news. I sat down. What happened? Prison fight. Apparently he tried to con the wrong inmate. Guy stabbed him in the cafeteria. Carlos died before the guards could stop the bleeding. And Jessica? She's still alive, still serving her sentence. But she's different now. The guards say she helps other inmates, tutors them, stays out of trouble. People don't change that much. Maybe not, or maybe prison really did break her. Either way, she's no longer a threat. After he hung up, I sat quietly for a long time. Jessica was in prison. The victims had received restitution. David was rebuilding his life. It was over. Really, truly over. I called David. Did you hear about Carlos? I asked. Yeah, Richard told me. I don't know how to feel about it. Neither do I. Is it wrong that I'm not sad? No, he hurt a lot of people, including you. Including you too. Yes, me too. We were both quiet. Mom, I have news, David said finally. Rachel and I are getting married. My heart stopped. What? I know what you're thinking. It's too soon. It's too risky. But this is different. Rachel is different. And I'm different. I'm not the same person I was with Jessica. David, I want you to be there, at the wedding. I want your blessing. Not just your presence, but your actual approval. If you can't give me that, I'll wait. I'll keep working on myself until you trust me again. I thought about Rachel, her kindness, her honesty, the way she made David smile. When's the wedding? 6 months, small ceremony, just family and close friends, no fancy hotel ballroom, no drama, just us and the people we love. I'll be there. Really? Really. Rachel's a good person. She'll be good to you. And good for you. Thank you, Mom. That means everything. 6 months later, I stood in a small garden and watched my son marry a woman who actually loved him. Rachel wore a simple white dress. David wore a suit. No expensive designer labels, no pretentious displays of wealth. Just 2 people promising to love each other. The ceremony was short, sweet, real. When the officiant pronounced them married, David kissed Rachel. Then he turned to me. Mom, come here. I walked over. He hugged me tight. Thank you, he whispered, for everything, for saving me, for loving me even when I didn't deserve it, for being the strongest person I know. I held my son and felt tears on my face. Be happy, I said. That's all I want. Just be happy. I will. We will. The reception was in Rachel's parents' backyard. Nothing fancy. Barbecue and beer and laughter. Real people having real conversations. I sat at a picnic table with Ellen and watched David dance with his new wife. He looked young again. Free. You did good, Ellen said. I got lucky. No, you were smart and brave. And you didn't give up on him even when you had every reason to. He's my son. Exactly. The sun set. Lights came on in the trees. Someone started a bonfire. Kids roasted marshmallows while adults told stories. David sat down next to me. Penny for your thoughts? He asked. I was thinking about your father, wishing he could be here. Me too, but I think he'd be proud of both of us. I think so too. Mom, I know things between us will never be exactly like they were before. Too much has happened. But I hope we can build something new, something better. We can try. That's all I'm asking. Rachel joined us, carrying slices of cake. My mom made this, she said, handing us plates. It's her grandmother's recipe. 3 generations of love in every bite. I tasted it. Chocolate. Rich. Perfect. It's wonderful, I said. Thank you for being here. Rachel squeezed my hand. David was so worried you wouldn't come, that you'd still be angry about everything that happened. I was angry, but anger isn't permanent. Love is. That's beautiful. It's true. We ate cake and watched the fire and talked about nothing important. Just family being family. Around midnight, people started leaving. I helped clean up, gathering paper plates and plastic cups. David stopped me. You don't have to do that. I want to help. No. I mean, you don't have to always be the strong one, the one who handles everything. Let us take care of you for once. I looked at my son. He was right. I'd spent so long being the protector, the fighter, the one who fixed problems, that I'd forgotten how to let anyone help me. Okay, I said. You're right. Go home. Rest. Rachel and I will handle this. I let him take the trash bag from my hands. Ellen drove me home. We didn't talk much. Didn't need to. When I got to my apartment, the downtown one, I'd moved back in 3 months ago. I stood on the balcony and looked at the city. Tomorrow, David and Rachel would leave for their honeymoon. A real one this time. 2 weeks in Ireland. When they got back, they'd move into the house they'd bought together, start their life, and I'd be here, in my parents' apartment, surrounded by memories and new beginnings. It was enough. It was good. I went inside, made tea, and sat in my father's favorite chair. The chair I'd saved from Jessica. The chair that had been in my family for 40 years. I thought about everything that had happened. The wedding, the slap, the investigation, the trial, the aftermath. I thought about revenge, about justice, about the difference between the two. I'd gotten both. Jessica was in prison, Carlos,